Did you know that the elemental effects of breathing styles in Demon Slayer are fake? The flames, the thunder, the water, it's all just for show. It doesn't actually happen. What happens is just pure swordsmanship enhanced by breathing and focus. But if it's not real, what makes each style different? Let me explain. Centuries ago, Yoriichi Sugikuni was born to a world plagued by the demonic hordes of Muzan Kibutsuji, almost as if the universe was attempting to balance the scales. Yoriichi was born with immense physical abilities, a Demon Slayer marks straight from the spawn point, and incredible instincts. And so, convinced that he was born to defeat the demons, Yoriichi would go on to develop the very first breathing style, made to destroy demons. It was designed to imitate the power of the sun, the only thing capable of truly killing them. As the first and original breathing style, sun breathing's movements grant the user a physical buff that outpaces all the other forms by a mile. This breathing style is so powerful that it's allowed Tanjiro to win in even the most hopeless situations. When he was on the edge of defeat against Rui in the now iconic episode 19, when he was about to die on the Mugen train, and even against Daki, every time sun breathing's been seen, it lives up to its legendary status. But that begs the question, why don't all the Demon Slayers use it then? See, the other Demon Slayers of Yoriichi's time weren't as strong or talented as him, which meant that they couldn't use sun breathing and its full physical buff properly. Luckily for them, that thing's flexible as hell. Instead of just telling the scrubs they need to get good, Yoriichi was able to help them develop whole new breathing styles that use sun breathing as a base. Through this, the 5 elemental breathing styles were born, each of them having incredible strengths of their own. The first of these elemental breathing styles was created by a student of Yoriichi himself. This was what would come to be known as water breathing. Now, in contrast to sun breathing, this style specialty lies not in its raw power, but in its fluidity. Water breathing focuses on constantly being in motion and being fast enough to adapt to any movement. Since the whole point of this form was to make a weaker version of sun breathing for Yoriichi's student, water breathing is more of a tactical style than one of outright power. This style is taught to Tanjiro by Sakonji Urokodaki for that exact reason. It's the simplest of the forms and the easiest to learn for beginners because of it. In fact, most of the unranked Demon Slayers in the core use water breathing. However, even amongst these, a few Slayers stand above the rest, like really far above, Goku style even. Among these extraordinary Slayers, Tanjiro and Giyu stand at the top. Even though sun breathing comes more naturally to him, Tanjiro's mastery of water breathing perfectly captures its fluid nature. But even that's nothing compared to Giyu, who's so skilled in water breathing, he created a new form only he can use. The 11th form of water breathing, Ultra Instinct. Sorry, Dead Calm. Same thing really though. However, even as impressive as Giyu is, he's not alone in creating something new from water breathing. Some Slayers have gone as far as to create whole new breathing styles from water breathing. One of these styles is used by Obanai Iguro, the Serpent Hashira, and that snake on his shoulders, it's not there for show. It's actually a part of his breathing style, which is Serpent Breathing. Although this form is built on the foundation of water breathing and shares some key principles, Obanai actually created it based on the movements of a snake, using this form that's unique to him alone. Obanai focuses on slithering, fast attacks meant to confuse his opponents. How, you ask? Well, just look at the damn thing he calls a sword. If somebody came waving that thing around at me, I'd be cooked. Obanai's Serpent Breathing is great at taking out groups of grunts in one go. Both his 3rd and 5th forms are perfect for this, with the rest being very similar in nature. Obanai's personal breathing style isn't the only one to branch out from water breathing though, because this next one does the same thing with a twist. The breathing style in question is actually flower breathing, and although it was originally created long before the events of Demon Slayer's main story, the only living users of it are Shinobu's older sister Kane and her student Kanao. To be completely honest, it's kind of a strange one, and I don't mean that the style itself is confusing or anything, but there's not much that sets it apart from basic water breathing. Visually, it's meant to be much more graceful and elegant in the movements, leading to the name flower breathing, but beyond that, the principles are the same as water breathing, focusing on the user's speed and technique over raw power. However, there is one specific ability that sets flower breathing apart. In chapter 162 of the manga, Kanao reveals the final form of flower flower breathing. This form allows the blood vessels in the user's eyes to go into overdrive, basically giving them a temporary Sharingan, which lets them see things in slow motion. Unfortunately, this form comes with the downsides of the Sharingan too, eventually blinding Kanao if she uses it too much. Now, we've talked about the derivatives of water breathing, but what if I told you there's still more? And not even another derivative of water breathing, but a derivative of a derivative. The double derivative in question is insect breathing, which Shinobu Kocho created using her sister's flower breathing as a base. Insect breathing is actually a style Shinobu created out of necessity, said necessity being that she's basically got noodles for arms and the upper body strength of a toddler. So what's one to do when they don't have the strength to fight fair? Fight dirty, of course, and insect breathing takes that idea quite literally, as in the whole focus of this style is to pump your opponent full of poison till they drop dead. Of course, it's not like the other guy's just gonna stand there and let you poke him with a needle, which is where the insect aspect of this breathing style comes in. Instead of aiming to cause any actual damage with the sword, a user of insect breathing focuses entirely on stinging movements, thrusting and stabbing from a safe distance to break the opponent's skin. From there, the wisteria-based venom coating their blade does the rest of the job for them. However, as effective as this breathing style is, it's really just a crutch. Compared to the raw power of elemental breathing styles, it doesn't really match up, especially this next one, which almost makes insect breathing look downright weak in comparison. This style is thunder breathing, which I personally think's gotta be the coolest one. Thunder breathing is, as the name suggests, focused on extremely fast and extremely powerful attacks. I'm talking moves that blitz the enemy faster than they can even pull out their own weapon. According to Zenitsu, the style focuses on channeling strength into the legs and drawing out the maximum output of every single muscle and blood vessel in a single instant, an explosive and instant power that destroys all in its path. And sure enough, despite only knowing the first form of thunder breathing, Zenitsu's shown us exactly that every time he locks in with his iconic thunderclap and flash. However, Zenitsu's not the only user of thunder breathing still around. Before I talk about the other user though, be warned, his breathing style is a pretty massive spoiler for the upcoming Infinity Castle movie. For those of you who stuck around, the other thunder breathing user is actually none other than the guy who trained alongside Zenitsu, Kaigaku. Unlike Zenitsu though, Kaigaku's pure evil in human form. Not long before the Infinity Castle arc, he caused the death of their own master Jigoro, and voluntarily becomes a demon, eventually becoming Muzan's new Upper Moon 6. As wild as that is, it's not even the most unbelievable thing that Kaigaku's done. See, since Kaigaku's now a demon with full access to thunder breathing, he's able to combine it with his blood demon art to make actual lightning, transforming the breathing style into demonic thunder breathing. This instantly turns the breathing style from a dangerous skill to an actual lethal weapon, which is pretty clear when he straight up starts launching lightning waves at Zenitsu in chapter 145. As unique and special as it is though, this isn't even the only breathing style to incorporate a blood demon art, but I'll get to the other one later. First, it's time to get into thunder breathing's own derivative styles. Seeing as how thunder is really just the sound of lightning, it's no surprise that sound breathing itself is derived from it, and who better to create such an explosive breathing style than the Riz god himself, Tengen Uzui. Now, I won't lie, as far as his personal achievements go, bagging all three of his wives is easily the top of the list, and it is not close. But creating a whole new breathing style is impressive too. To put it as simply as possible, Tengen is one loud dude, and that summarizes the core of his personal breathing style. He loves being flashy in all aspects of his life, and fighting's definitely one of those. Sound breathing's central focus is smashing stuff hard, fast, and with a big boom. Using his dual Nichiren cleavers, Tengen's a storm of noise and death on the battlefield, and combined with his ninja training and tools, he makes it work insanely well. But that's not all. Much like Tanjiro's sense of smell, Tengen's got an enhanced sense as well in his hearing. By combining this with the abilities of his breathing style, Tengen's able to literally hear and deconstruct every individual sound created by an enemy's movements. With that kind of hearing, he can not only track them down, but also read his opponent's every move just from the vibrations in the air. And speaking of air, this next breathing style is actually focused entirely on imitating it. Next on the list of pure elemental breathing styles, we've got wind breathing, created for the use of yet another of Yorichi's students who couldn't learn sun breathing. Wind breathing is a fully offense-focused and savage breathing breathing style, although that's pretty obvious when the only living user looks like this. Now, wind breathing itself is about channeling the fast, rotating movements of whirlwinds to throw out extra heavy slashes. But then there's more to this style than most of the elemental forms, because since wind is all around us at any given moment, wind breathing actually can use its element to some level. Sanemi actually makes a really impressive display of this with the style's fourth form, completely shredding apart a squad of demons. Surprisingly, as straightforward as it is, wind breathing has some derivatives of its own, like the next breathing style on our list today. The first of these wind derivatives, mist breathing, is used by a descendant of Yoriichi himself, Muichiro Tokido. While most of Muichiro's strength comes from his lineage and raw talent, mist breathing is nothing to laugh at. Sure, it doesn't boast some of the flashier abilities like thunder breathing or even sound breathing, but its strength lies in its subtlety. The whole focus of mist breathing is about being near impossible to predict. Its techniques and forms are designed for the user to move at random points in their attack, making them hard to keep track of. In those ways, it's like you're fighting in actual heavy mist. The fourth and fifth forms of mist breathing embody these traits perfectly, leading to an attack that's all but impossible to dodge. A key feature of Muichiro's that makes this even more effective is his baggy clothing, which hides the movement of his limbs enough to make his attacks even harder to see coming. As simple as it sounds, that kind of stealth paired with the strength of the Sugikuni lineage is absolutely deadly. Funnily enough though, the second derivative of wind breathing that I'm gonna go over next is the exact opposite of this. Created by Inosuke Hashibira, beast breathing is less of a proper style and more just raw instinct honed into a weapon. This breathing style only works for Inosuke because of his background, boars. His background is boars, or to be more specific, he was found and raised in the woods by a pack of boars, which led to his animalistic instincts and fighting style. Honestly, there's not much more to say about beast breathing, since even in universe, Inosuke is the only one who could ever hope to grasp it. Every attack is unpredictable, wild, and ferocious, exactly like an animal. Even the forms Inosuke uses are just full frontal attacks of different kinds that he calls fangs. The only exception to this is the seventh form, spatial awareness, which uses Inosuke's superhuman sense of touch to map out a huge area around himself. But even Inosuke's savage and wild breathing style can't quite match the raw power of the closest thing to sun breathing. This next elemental breathing style might just be the strongest of them all. Flame breathing has been around since Yoriichi's era, and it's been passed down through the Rengoku family ever since. As you'd expect, flame breathing is the opposite of water breathing in every way that matters. Users of flame breathing stand their ground, focusing on the power of their inner fire to unleash overwhelming attacks. More so than outmaneuvering an opponent, flame breathing is all about overpowering and crushing the enemy. The best example of this is when Kyojuro Rengoku, the Flame Hashira, unleashes the style's ninth form, Rengoku, a technique that unleashes all the user's power in a blaze of fury, carving through the ground itself as they dash over it to deliver their attack. Unfortunately, the enemy wasn't the one that got turned into a barbecue skewer in this move's aftermath. RIP to the GOAT. Despite the style being guarded by the Rengoku family, they weren't its only users. In fact, the love Hashira Mitsuri Kanroji was a user of flame breathing herself, before she eventually created her own derivative form of it. This form is love breathing, which sounds vague, I know. That's because it is. There's not much about Mitsuri's personal breathing style that really has anything to do with love, unless you count the whipping. And if you do, seek help. Unlike all the other derivatives, this one was actually developed because Mitsuri is too strong. With muscle density that's a solid 8 times that of a normal human, she had to create her own breathing style that allowed her to get the most out of her inhuman strength and speed. And so, pairing it with her whip-like katana that can change its form on command, Mitsuri leaps around battlefields and swings her whip blade around enemies in ways that are only possible because of her superhuman body. Love breathing's second and third forms capture that side of that style perfectly, showing why this kind of movement wouldn't really work for a normal demon slayer, as the fighting style is actually a combination of her physical abilities and her unusual weapon. Love breathing is exclusive to Mitsuri. However, having an unusual weapon itself is something she has in common with the Hashira who uses this next breathing style. The only seen user of stone breathing, Gyome Himejima. Gyome, the man built like a brick wall, could not be more perfect for this breathing style. Stone breathing is one of the original elemental styles and specializes in being both both an immovable wall and an unstoppable force, which again fits Gyomei perfectly. The focus with stone breathing is to use the ground beneath one's feet, their surroundings, and their body to their full advantage. By doing this, a stone breathing user is able to root themselves to the ground, tank everything that comes their way, and lash out in response with even stronger hits. As a matter of fact, we see Gyomei doing just that to a level that's pure eye candy to watch after Muzan's visit to Ubuyashiki Mansion. In just one scene using his style's third form, Gyomei proved why most of the core considers him the strongest Hashira. Interestingly enough, while Gyomei's weapon of choice is a flail and axe combo, the creator of stone breathing was seen wielding a kama in Yorichi's era. Since we know almost nothing about this breathing style, that means stone breathing isn't as rigid as the name would suggest. Although with the display I just showed Gyomei putting on against Muzan, that was pretty obvious already. Stone breathing has a variety of different forms that go with different weapons. However, as impressive as stone breathing is, it still pales in comparison to the true original derivative, the first ever breathing style to be adapted from Yorichi's sun breathing, and the first to become a demonic breathing style, moon breathing. The very first breathing style to be born after sun breathing itself was created by none other than Yorichi's twin brother, Michikatsu Sugikuni. For most of his life as a human, Michikatsu's goal was to be the greatest samurai and swordsman in the land. So when his brother created sun breathing, he naturally attempted to learn it. What he ended up with instead was moon breathing, mirroring his lifelong goal and motivations. Moon breathing's techniques are almost all enhanced and varied versions of standard swordsmanship techniques. To put it simply, moon breathing's just the perfection of fundamentals of swordsmanship, but on steroids, and that's not even where it ends. As ambitious as Michikatsu was, he eventually grew jealous of his brother's superior strength as the only sun breather. This jealousy would drive him into the arms of Muzan, leading to his transformation into the Upper Moon 1, Kokushibo. As Kokushibo, his moon breathing was combined with his blood demon art to become the first tangible breathing style. In this form, moon breathing is capable of producing countless physical crescent moon blades along Kokushibo's sword slashes. The first time we get to see this is in chapter 165, where Muichiro ends up losing one of his hands pretty early into their fight. Considering that Muichiro is one of the strongest Hashira, that alone shows just what an overwhelming enemy Kokushibo is to the core. Paired with the whopping 16 forms of moon breathing, which far outnumber any other breathing style's forms, it's pretty accurate to say that Kokushibo, with his demonic moon breathing, is the strongest demon in the world. After Muzan, that is.